If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and let us know what city you're watching from. Let's continue. Marina clutched the strap of her worn-out purse tightly, as if the gesture could calm the heart pounding in her chest. At 23, she had never seen a house so big in her life. The wrought-iron gate swung open automatically after she buzzed the intercom, and as she walked up the cobblestone driveway, her eyes widened at the impeccable garden stretching out on either side. There were perfectly pruned rose bushes, an ornamental pond with colourful koi, fish, and even a marble fountain in the centre of the lawn. It was all so different from the small three-room apartment in the Bronx, where she lived with her mother and two younger siblings. The nanny position had popped up at an employment agency after weeks of searching. Marina desperately needed this job. The salary was good, better than anything she could get with just a high school diploma, and the chance to work for a family seemed perfect. She had always loved children. She was patient, caring, and responsible. Her mother always said Marina was born to take care of people, that she had a heart too big for her own good. When she finally reached the front door, a housekeeper in a crisp uniform greeted her with a serious nod and led her inside. Marina stepped onto the pale marble of the foyer and felt as if she had entered another world. A massive chandelier hung from the high ceiling, paintings in gilded frames adorned the walls, and a wide staircase swept up to the second floor. The air smelled of fresh flowers and something expensive she couldn't identify. It was French perfume, but she didn't know that. The housekeeper asked her to wait in the living room. Marina sat on the edge of a beige sofa that looked like it had never been used and glanced around, trying to memorize every detail. She was nervous, but also full of hope. This job could change everything for her family. With that salary, she could help pay the bills, buy better school supplies for her siblings, maybe even let her mother stop working so many hours at the garment factory. Firm footsteps echoed in the hallway, and Marina immediately stood up. The woman who entered the room was the definition of elegance. Veronica was around 35, with sleek dark hair pulled back in a perfect bun. She wore a tailored beige dress and heels that clicked rhythmically with each step. Her face was beautiful, but there was something cold in her expression, in the brown eyes that scanned Marina from head to toe, as if evaluating a product in a store window. "Good morning. You must be the new nanny. I'm Veronica, Gabriel's mother." Marina extended her hand with a shy smile. "Good morning, ma'am. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity." Veronica shook her hand quickly, almost limply, and immediately let go. "Let's get straight to the point. My husband travels frequently for work, and I have numerous social engagements. I need someone responsible to look after my son. Gabriel is 4 years old and requires strict discipline. He lost his biological mother at a very young age, and I've since taken on the role, but I know he needs someone present during the day." Marina nodded, trying to appear attentive and professional. "I understand completely, ma'am. I have experience with young children. I've cared for my siblings since they were babies." Veronica picked up a folded sheet of paper from a designer handbag on the side table. "Here are the rules. It is crucial that you follow every single one of them to the letter. No sweets outside of designated times, no television beyond the permitted amount, no excessive noise. Gabriel is in a critical phase of character development, and we cannot allow him to develop bad habits. Discipline is paramount." Marina took the list and glanced at it quickly. There were dozens of rules written in small print, fixed schedules for everything, prohibitions of all kinds, and prescribed punishments for every behavioral deviation. Something inside her stirred uncomfortably, but she pushed the feeling away. She needed this job. "I understand, ma'am. I'll follow everything perfectly. Another very important thing." Veronica stepped closer, and Marina could smell the expensive perfume invading her space. "You are not under any circumstances to question my decisions regarding Gabriel. I am his mother, and I know what's best. I also don't want you to create any sort of emotional dependency. You are here to work, not to be his friend. Excessive affection spoils a child." Marina felt a tightness in her chest but forced a smile. "Of course, ma'am." "Excellent. Let's go upstairs so you can meet Gabriel. He's in his room. He spilled juice at breakfast this morning and is in time out. He needs to learn that actions have consequences." Time out, Marina thought, but said nothing. She followed Veronica up the wide staircase, observing the details of the house. There were photos in silver picture frames showing a handsome man in a suit next to Veronica at social events, but very few pictures of the boy. One or two showed a younger Gabriel, always alone or with a serious expression. They reached the second floor, and Veronica opened the door to a large room, decorated with expensive children's furniture and toys that were too organized to be used often. In the corner, facing away from the door, was a small wooden chair. A little boy with light brown hair sat on it, motionless, his head bowed. "Gabriel, this is Marina. She'll be taking care of you from now on," Veronica said in a firm voice, showing no emotion. The boy didn't move. Marina felt something break inside her. He was so small, so quiet. How long had he been there? "He can come out. Of time out at noon. There are still 40 minutes left." Veronica glanced at her gold wristwatch. "You can stay here and observe. When the time is up, you can take him for lunch. The portions are detailed on the list I gave you. Do not give him more than what is specified." "Yes, ma'am." Veronica left the room, her heels making that rhythmic clicking sound in the hallway again. The door closed, and Marina was left alone with the boy. She approached slowly, her heart aching. "Hi, Gabriel, I'm Marina." Silence. The boy didn't move. Marina crouched beside the chair, trying to see his face. Gabriel had light green eyes, rosy cheeks, and an expression that shouldn't exist on a 4-year-old's face. It was resignation. It was deep sadness. He glanced at her quickly and then looked away. "Have you been there a long time?" "Since before breakfast." His voice was low, almost a whisper. "I deserved it." Marina felt a lump in her throat. I deserved it. A 4-year-old saying he deserved to sit in a time-out chair for hours for spilling juice. She looked around the room. There were toys, but they all seemed untouched. Children's books, organized, too neatly. A bed with white sheets stretched as tight as a hotel's. No drawings on the wall, no mess, no sign that a child actually lived there. "Gabriel, everyone spills things sometimes. It's not that big of a deal." "Yes, it is. Mommy Veronica said I need to learn, that I'm clumsy and need discipline." The boy spoke as if reciting something he had memorized. Marina swallowed hard. "Mommy Veronica." The way he said it sounded mechanical, devoid of affection. She looked at the clock. 35 minutes to go. She sat on the floor next to the chair, even though she knew she probably shouldn't. "I spill things all the time. Just last week I dropped a whole glass of orange juice in the living room. My mom didn't even get mad. We just cleaned it up together, and that was that." Gabriel glanced at her out of the corner of his eye, as if he didn't believe what he was hearing. "Really? Really? And you know what happened next? We had another glass of juice, carefully this time, but we had it, because making mistakes is part of life. Everyone makes them. But Mommy Veronica says making mistakes means we're not trying hard enough." Marina felt a surge of anger but controlled it. She took a deep breath. "Sometimes we make mistakes even when we're trying our best, especially when we're little and still learning." The boy didn't answer, but she saw something shift in his eyes. A tiny spark of hope, perhaps, or curiosity. The minutes dragged on. Marina stayed there, telling silly stories about her childhood in the Bronx, about her siblings, about playing in the street. Gabriel listened in silence, but she could tell he was paying attention. Every now and then a near smile would appear at the corner of his mouth. When the clock finally struck noon, Marina helped Gabriel stand up. His little legs were stiff from sitting for so long. He wobbled a bit, and she held his arm to support him. "Let's go get some lunch, okay?" Gabriel nodded. They went down to the kitchen together, a huge open-plan kitchen with state-of-the-art appliances and a marble island in the center. The housekeeper had already prepared the meal according to the instructions. Marina looked at the plates. The portion of food was far too small for a 4-year-old. There was a small piece of grilled chicken, 2 spoonfuls of brown rice, and a few steamed vegetables. No juice, just water. "Is this all you eat?" "Yes. Mommy Veronica says kids can't eat too much, or they get lazy." Marina's stomach churned. This wasn't right, but she was new here. She couldn't just ignore the orders, not yet. She served Gabriel and sat beside him as the boy ate slowly, chewing each bite as if it were an obligation, not a pleasure. "Is it good?" Gabriel shrugged. "Food is food." A 4-year-old shouldn't talk like that. Marina watched his every move, every expression. There was something wrong, very wrong in this beautiful house and with this sad little boy. After lunch, Veronica appeared again, impeccable as always. Gabriel immediately tensed up, his little shoulders rigid. "Marina, now it's study time. Gabriel needs to practice his letters for an hour. Afterward, you can let him play for 30 minutes, but only with the educational toys. No running or noise. Snack time is at 3, followed by another hour of educational activities. Bath is at 6 sharp and dinner is at 7. He goes to bed at 8, no talking after that." "Yes, ma'am," Marina forced the words out. Veronica looked at Gabriel with those cold eyes. "I expect you to behave well today. No fussing." "Yes, Mommy Veronica." The boy's voice was a thread. The afternoon followed the rigid schedule. Marina helped Gabriel with his letters, impressed by his intelligence. The boy was smart, a quick learner, but there was fear in every stroke he made on the paper. Fear of making a mistake. Fear of disappointing. During the 30 minutes of permitted playtime, Gabriel picked up an educational puzzle and began assembling it in silence. Marina sat on the floor beside him. "Don't. You want to play with something else? There's a toy car over there. Cars make noise. We can't make noise. What if we play very quietly?" Gabriel glanced at the bedroom door, as if Veronica might appear at any moment. "We can't. Mommy Veronica gets mad. She's downstairs now. We can play for a little bit, just for today. How about it?" The boy hesitated. Marina picked up the car and made it drive slowly across the floor, making a soft whirring sound. Gabriel watched, fascinated as if he'd never seen such a thing before. She held the car out to him. "Want to try?" Slowly, as if doing something forbidden, Gabriel took the car. His little fingers made the toy glide across the rug, and a tiny, almost imperceptible smile appeared on his lips. It was the first time Marina had seen him smile. The moment was shattered by firm footsteps in the hallway. Gabriel immediately dropped the car and went back to the puzzle, his body tense again. Veronica opened the door without knocking. "Is everything all right in here?" "Yes, ma'am. We're just finishing the educational activity." "Good. Gabriel, after your snack, you'll do handwriting exercises. Your letters are too sloppy. Perfection is achieved through practice." Gabriel nodded without looking at his stepmother. Veronica left and closed the door again. Marina looked at the boy and saw that he was trembling slightly. "Hey, it's okay. I don't want to do more handwriting. My hand hurt yesterday." Marina took Gabriel's small hand and saw red marks on his fingers from gripping the pencil so tightly for hours on end. She felt tears burn her eyes, but blinked them away quickly. "We'll do it carefully, okay? Slowly and carefully." The days began to follow a routine. Marina would arrive early, stay with Gabriel all day following Veronica's absurd rules, and leave in the late afternoon. Each day she discovered new, disturbing details. The boy couldn't ask for water outside of designated times. He couldn't cry because crying was a sign of weakness. He couldn't run because running was dangerous and unnecessary. He couldn't ask too many questions because too many questions were inconvenient. Gabriel was living in a silent prison inside that luxurious mansion, and Veronica was the cold warden who watched his every move. Marina tried, within the limits, to bring small doses of humanity to that routine. She talked to Gabriel during activities, told funny stories, and praised his every small achievement. She taught him his letters with patience, without demanding perfection. She allowed him to make mistakes, to start over, to learn at his own pace. And Gabriel began to change. Not much, not obviously, but there was something different. He started looking at Marina with hope. He started smiling more, even if they were small, fleeting smiles. He started asking questions, even if fearfully. He started to exist a little more. One afternoon, while they were practicing the alphabet, Gabriel stopped writing and looked at Marina with those light green eyes full of an old sadness. "Marina." "Yes." "Are you my friend?" Her heart clenched. Of course I am, Gabriel. Even if I'm annoying and clumsy like Mommy Veronica says? Marina put down her pencil and held the boy's small shoulders, making him look at her. Listen to me very carefully, okay? You are not annoying. You are not clumsy. You are a very smart, very sweet, and very special boy, and I like you very much. Gabriel hugged her tightly, burying his face in her neck. Marina felt his tears soaking her shirt and held the boy with all her strength, as if she could protect him from all the evil in the world. It was in that moment that she knew. It didn't matter what happened. It didn't matter about the absurd rules. It didn't matter if she was afraid of losing her job. She would do whatever it took to protect this boy. Gabriel deserved to be a child. He deserved to play, laugh, run, make mistakes, and be loved unconditionally. And Marina would do everything to ensure he had at least a little of that while he was under her care. Even if it was only in the moments when Veronica wasn't looking. Even if it was only in small doses of affection, stolen from the rigidity of that cruel routine. Because in that giant, luxurious house, amidst all the marble and gold, there was a 4-year-old boy who desperately needed something money couldn't buy. He needed love, and Marina was willing to give all she had. That night, on the crowded subway back to the Bronx, Marina couldn't stop thinking about Gabriel. Her mother, Connie, noticed immediately that something was different. "How was your first day, honey?" Marina dropped her purse on the old living room sofa and sat next to her mother. She was tired, but it was a different kind of tired, not physical. It was emotional. "Mum, I need to tell you something." And she told her. She told her about the enormous house, about Veronica and her absurd rules, about Gabriel and his sad eyes that seemed too old for such a little boy. Connie listened in silence, her hands, calloused from years at the sewing machine, holding Marina's. "Honey, this situation doesn't sit right with me. A child needs affection, freedom to be a kid. That boy is suffering. I know, Mom, that's why I can't leave him. I'm the only person in that house who treats him with a shred of humanity. But you have to be careful. Rich people are complicated, honey. They have power, they have lawyers, they have everything. If that woman finds out you're doing things differently than she ordered, you'll lose your job in a heartbeat, and we need that money." Marina knew her mother was right, but when she closed her eyes, she saw Gabriel in that time-out chair, small and resigned. She saw the way he trembled when Veronica entered the room. She saw that shy smile when she let him play for a little while. "I'll be careful, Mom. But I can't just stand by and watch a child be treated like that." Connie sighed and hugged her daughter tightly. "You take after me, you stubborn girl. Always trying to save the world. Just don't forget to protect yourself too." The days passed, and Marina learned more and more about the cruel routine Gabriel was subjected to. In the second week, she witnessed something that almost made her explode. It was a Thursday morning, and Gabriel was having breakfast. Veronica was present, supervising. The boy held the small cup of milk with both hands, concentrating so as not to spill. But the cup was too big for his fingers, and when he tried to put it back on the saucer, the milk sloshed onto the tablecloth. The silence that followed was terrifying. "Again, Gabriel." Veronica's voice was pure ice. "It was an accident, Mommy Veronica." The boy's eyes were already filled with tears. "An accident because you don't concentrate. Because you don't try hard enough. How many times will I have to teach you the—" "Same thing." Veronica stood up and grabbed Gabriel's arm forcefully. Marina saw the marks of the woman's fingers on the boy's pale skin and felt her blood boil. "To your room. 2 hours of time out." "But he hasn't even finished his breakfast," Marina said, before she could stop herself. Veronica turned to her with an expression of pure disdain. "I didn't ask for your opinion. When a child misbehaves, he needs to learn there are consequences. He will go to his room now." Gabriel was dragged up the stairs, crying softly. Marina stood frozen in the dining room, her hands shaking with rage. The housekeeper, a middle-aged woman named Rosa, approached her after Veronica left. "It's no use, kid. I've seen 3 nannies come and go. They all tried to help the boy, and they all got fired. That woman is as cold as ice. And the boss, Mr. Miller, he's never here to see what happens. But someone has to do something. This isn't right." "I know it's not. But we're the help, honey. We don't have any power here." Rosa shook her head sadly and went back to the kitchen. Marina slowly went up to Gabriel's room. She found the boy in the time-out chair, sobbing quietly. She knelt beside him. "Gabriel, look at me." The boy lifted his tear-streaked face. "I know you didn't do it on purpose. I know you didn't mean to spill the milk. And you know what else? There's nothing wrong with you. You're a wonderful little boy. But I always do things wrong. I always disappoint Mommy Veronica." "You don't disappoint anyone. You're a child. Children spill things, break things, make mistakes. That's how we learn. And you know what people who really love us do? They help clean up, teach with kindness, and give a hug." "Did my real mommy give me hugs?" Gabriel spoke so softly, Marina almost didn't hear him. Her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. "I'm sure she did. I'm sure your mom loved you very much. She's in heaven now. Daddy said she became a star and is always watching over me. Then she's seeing how brave and strong you are. She's seeing that you endure all of this and still manage to smile sometimes." Gabriel was silent for a moment. "Do you think my mommy would like you?" "I think so. And I think she'd be happy to know there's someone here taking care of you." The boy reached out his small hand and held Marina's. They stayed like that, in silence, until the time out was over. That afternoon, when Veronica left for a social engagement, Marina decided to take a risk. She took Gabriel to the backyard, a place he was rarely allowed to go because Veronica thought children got too dirty. "Want to play outside for a little bit?" Gabriel's eyes lit up. "Are we allowed?" "Yes, we are. Just for today, our little secret." They went out through the kitchen door. The garden was beautiful that fall afternoon, with the soft sun filtering through the trees. There was an old swing set in a corner, probably forgotten for years. Marina wiped the seat with her hand and placed Gabriel on it. "Hold on tight. I'm going to push you." And she pushed. Gently at first, then a little higher. Gabriel started to laugh, a real, happy child's laugh that echoed through the garden like music. Marina felt tears of joy in her eyes. That was the sound a 4-year-old should make. This was how he should live. "Higher, Marina, higher." She pushed harder, and Gabriel giggled, his hair flying in the wind, his cheeks rosy with joy. For 20 minutes he was just a normal kid playing on a swing. For 20 minutes he forgot about the rules, the timeouts, the fear. When they went back inside, Gabriel was beaming. "Thank you, Marina, this was the best day of my life." She hugged the boy tightly. "We'll have more days like this, I promise." From that day on, something shifted in the house's dynamic. Marina didn't know exactly what, but she felt it. It was as if the air was heavier, as if Veronica was watching her more closely. But she continued to do what she thought was right. Whenever possible, in the cracks of the cruel routine, she offered Gabriel small moments of joy. She taught the boy to write his own name. Not in the rigid, perfect way Veronica demanded, but with fun, turning each letter into a little adventure. The G was a kitten curled up asleep. The A was a little house with a pointy roof. The B was a butterfly with big wings. The R was a flowing river. The I was a little man with his arms raised. And the E and L were ladders to climb up to the clouds. Gabriel loved it. For the first time, studying wasn't a punishment. It was a game. He repeated his name dozens of times, laughing every time he got to the little man with his arms raised. One day, during the afternoon snack, Gabriel looked at Marina with an expression too serious for a child. "Marina, can I ask you something?" "Of course, you can ask me anything." "Why are you different from the other nannies?" Marina blinked in surprise. "There were other nannies before me. There were 3. But they didn't stay long. Mommy Veronica always got mad at them and sent them away." "And why did they leave?" Gabriel lowered his voice, as if it were a dangerous secret. "Because they were nice to me. Like you. Mommy Veronica doesn't like it when people are nice to me." Marina's heart sank. So there had been other women who tried to help Gabriel, and they had all been fired. She was in the crosshairs. Veronica was probably already looking for a reason to get rid of her, too. "You know what, Gabriel?" She knelt in front of him, holding his small hands. "The people who really take care of you, who really like you, they don't leave easily. They fight. They do everything they can to stay, and that's what I'm going to do. You promise you won't leave me? I promise I'll do everything I can to stay here with you. But Marina knew that promises like that were dangerous. She had no control over it. But looking into those green eyes full of hope, she couldn't say anything else. That night, after Gabriel was asleep, Marina was organizing the toys in his room when Veronica appeared at the door. She made no sound as she entered. Marina only noticed her presence when she felt the cold eyes on her. "We need to talk." The tone was icy. Marina stood up, her heart racing. "Yes, ma'am?" "I've been noticing a few things." Veronica walked into the room, closing the door behind her. Her heels clicked rhythmically on the hardwood floor. "You've been very affectionate with Gabriel." "I try to be caring, yes, ma'am. I think it's important for him to feel supported." "Supported?" Veronica repeated the word as if it was something disgusting. "I didn't hire you to support my son. I hired you to follow the rules I established, rules that exist for a reason. With all due respect, ma'am, but some of these rules are very strict for such a young child." It was the wrong thing to say. Veronica's eyes grew even colder, if that was possible. "You don't have children, you have no experience. You don't know anything about child rearing beyond taking care of your siblings in some rundown apartment. I know what's best for Gabriel. He needs discipline, not coddling. His biological mother was weak, permissive, and look where that got her." Marina swallowed hard, holding back the rage boiling inside her. "Where did it get her, ma'am?" Veronica gave a cold smile. "She left a 2-month-old son and just walked away. Abandoned Gabriel and Richard. Showed that love and affection mean nothing. That's why I'm raising my stepson the right way, so he won't be weak like her." There was something wrong with that story. Marina felt it deep in her soul. But now was not the time to question it. "I understand, ma'am. I'll be more careful." "Good, because if I notice you disrespecting my orders again, I will have to take action." Veronica turned to leave but stopped at the door. "Oh, and Marina, that little trip to the garden you two took last week, I saw everything. Consider this a warning." The door closed, and Marina was left alone in the dark room, her heart pounding. Veronica knew, and she was making it clear that any false step would be her last. But Marina looked at the bed where Gabriel was sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks, hugging the teddy bear she had given him permission to take from the closet where it was, locked away, and she knew she couldn't give up. That night on the crowded subway home, Marina thought about everything she had discovered. Gabriel was a sweet, intelligent, and sensitive boy, being twisted into something cold and broken by a woman who didn't know what love was. And the father. Where was the father in all of this? Richard was just a name in photos, an absent ghost who worked too much and trusted his wife blindly. Something had to change. But what? How? Marina was just a nanny from a humble background with no power, no connections, nothing but her love for a boy she barely knew, but who had already completely captured her heart. When she got home, she found her mother still awake, sewing at the old machine in the living room. "Mum, I need some advice." And she told her everything. She told her about Veronica's threat, about the strange story of the biological mother, about her desperation not knowing how to protect Gabriel. Connie stopped sewing and was silent for a long moment. "Honey, this situation is much bigger than you. But if there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that the truth always comes out. Always. You keep doing what you're doing, but be careful. And if a chance comes up to show the father what's happening, you show him. Because a real father wouldn't want his son to suffer like this." Marina hugged her mother tightly. "Thanks, Mom. Just take care of yourself, okay? And take care of that little boy, too. It sounds like he really needs you." And he did. In the following days, Marina kept up appearances, following Veronica's rules to the letter when the woman was around. But in the moments she was alone with Gabriel, she continued to offer love, affection, and small joys. The boy was changing. He laughed more, he talked more, he dreamed more, and Marina knew that wouldn't go unnoticed for long. The storm was just beginning. The following weeks were like walking on broken glass. Marina had to measure every word, every gesture, every glance. Veronica watched her constantly, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. But even under this relentless scrutiny, Marina couldn't simply ignore Gabriel's suffering. Her heart wouldn't let her. It was a Friday morning when everything started to fall apart. Marina arrived at the house, at 7 a.m. as usual, and immediately sensed that something was different. There was a tension in the air, a heavy silence that made her stomach churn. Rosa, the housekeeper, was in the kitchen with red eyes. "What happened, Rosa?" The older woman looked around before whispering, "The boy cried all night. He had a nightmare and Mrs. Veronica locked him in his room. Said a child who cries at night is just throwing a tantrum." Marina's blood ran cold. "She locked him in his room?" "Locked him in. I heard him screaming to be let out, calling for her mother who's gone. It was heartbreaking. But I can't do anything, kid. I need this job." "Where is he now?" "Still in his room. She said he can only come out when he stops his fit." Marina took the stairs 2 at a time. Her heart was beating so hard she could hear it in her ears. She reached Gabriel's room and turned the doorknob. It was locked. She knocked gently on the door. "Gabriel? It's Marina." Silence. Then, a voice so quiet, so broken, that Marina had to press her ear to the door to hear. "Marina." "Yes, it's me. Are you okay in there?" "I'm scared. There was a monster in my dream and it got me. And I called for Mommy Veronica, but she didn't come. She got mad because I woke up crying." "You didn't do anything wrong, Gabriel. Everyone has nightmares sometimes. It's not your fault. But Mommy Veronica said I have to be strong. That strong boys don't cry." Marina rested her forehead against the door, tears burning her eyes. "Strong boys can cry. Crying doesn't mean you're weak. It means you have feelings, and having feelings is what brave people do. Can I come out now? I'm going to talk to Mommy Veronica, okay? Can you hold on a little longer for me?" "Okay." His voice was so resigned, so tired. Marina went downstairs looking for Veronica and found her in the living room, drinking coffee while reading a design magazine. She was impeccable as always, perfect makeup, hair up, elegant clothes. It seemed impossible that a woman so beautiful on the outside could be so cold on the inside. "Mrs. Veronica, about Gabriel." Veronica looked up from her magazine without rushing. "What about him?" "He spent the night locked in his room. He had a nightmare and was scared. And he needs to learn not to bother others with his nighttime theatrics. A child with a proper routine doesn't have nightmares. If he had one, it's because he must have eaten something inappropriate or played for too long before bed. Everything has a consequence. But he's a child. It's normal to have nightmares, and locking him in the dark only makes the fear worse." Veronica closed the magazine with a sharp snap. "Marina, I have already warned you about questioning my decisions. Gabriel needs discipline. He needs to learn to control his emotions. The world out there has no pity for weak people. He's 4 years old, ma'am. It's not about weakness. It's about healthy emotional development." Veronica's gaze could have frozen hell. "You are disrespecting me in my own home. I could fire you right now." Marina took a deep breath, trying to control the tremor in her hands. "With all due respect, ma'am, but if you fire me, who will take care of Gabriel? There were 3 nannies before me, and they all left. Maybe the problem isn't with the nannies." She had gone too far. Marina realized it instantly. Veronica stood up, her eyes flashing with rage. "How dare you speak to me like that? You're a maid, a nobody from the Bronx who should be grateful for this job. The previous nannies left because they were incompetent, just as you are proving to be." "They left because they couldn't stand to see a child being mistreated." The silence that followed was absolute. Veronica turned pale, then red. Her hands were shaking with fury. "Get out of my house. Now." Marina's heart plummeted. No, it couldn't end like this. She couldn't leave Gabriel. "Ma'am, please." "Get out before I call. Security, you're fired." Marina felt tears stream down her face. "And Gabriel? Gabriel is not your problem. He never was." Veronica picked up her phone. "I'm calling the agency right now to request another nanny, one who knows her place." Marina ran upstairs to Gabriel's room. She had to say goodbye. She couldn't just leave without a word. She asked Rosa for the key, who handed it to her with pity-filled eyes and opened the door. Gabriel was sitting on the floor, hugging his teddy bear, his face stained with dried tears. When he saw Marina, his eyes lit up, for a moment, before he noticed her expression. "Marina, why are you crying?" She knelt in front of him, holding his small face in her hands. "Gabriel, I need to tell you something, and you need to be very brave for me, okay?" "What is it?" "I have to go away." Gabriel's world crumbled. Marina saw it happen in real time. The boy's eyes widened, his lower lip began to tremble, and then came the sobs, a desperate cry of pure abandonment. "No, you promised you wouldn't leave me. You promised." He threw himself into her arms, sobbing so hard his whole body shook. Marina held him tight, her own tears falling uncontrollably. "I don't want to go, Gabriel, I swear I don't, but Mommy Veronica told me to leave." "Why? Did I do something wrong?" No, sweetie. You didn't do anything wrong. You never do anything wrong. The problem isn't you. Then stay, please stay. I'll be good, I promise. I'll do everything right. I won't cry anymore. I won't have nightmares. I'll be perfect." The desperation in his voice cut Marina like a knife. My God, what has that woman done to this boy? How could he think he needed to be perfect to deserve love? "Gabriel, listen. You are already perfect just the way you are. You don't need to change a thing. And I'm not leaving because you did something wrong. I'm leaving because Mommy Veronica didn't like me. But listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you." She held his face, making him look into her eyes. "You are the most special, most caring, and most incredible little boy I have ever met. And even when I'm far away, I will still think about you every single day. I will still be rooting for you. And one day I promise things will get better. Someone will come along who will love you the way you deserve. But I want it to be you. Only you." Gabriel clutched Marina's shirt with his small fists. "Please don't leave me alone with her." The door flew open. Veronica stood there, accompanied by a large security guard. "That's enough of a farewell. Marina, leave now, or Paul will have to escort you out." Marina kissed Gabriel's forehead one last time. "Be strong, my love, be strong, and never forget that you are special." No, Gabriel screamed as the security guard began to pull Marina out of the room. She let herself be led away, because resisting would only make it more traumatic for the boy. But she turned her head back, seeing Gabriel trying to run after her, only to be held back by Veronica. The last image Marina had was of the boy crying desperately, reaching his arms out for her, while Veronica held him tightly. Then the door closed, and she was escorted out of the mansion. Sitting on the bus, still in shock, Marina couldn't stop crying. She had failed. She had promised Gabriel she would stay, and now she was leaving just like all the others. How would he understand? How would he survive in that cold, cruel house with no one to protect him? When she got home, her mother was frantic to see her in such a state. "What happened, honey?" Marina told her everything between sobs. Connie hugged her daughter and was silent for a long time. "You did what you could, my dear. But this situation is so wrong. That woman is hurting that boy, and nobody does anything. The father is never home. He doesn't see anything. Then someone needs to make him see." "But how, Mom? I was fired. I don't have access to the house anymore. I have no proof of anything. It's my word against hers, and she's rich and powerful. No one will believe me." Connie grew thoughtful. "Do you know the father's name?" "Richard. Richard Miller, I think." "What if you tried to contact him? Tell him what you saw." Marina shook her head. "He won't listen to me. Veronica has probably already told him some twisted version where I'm the villain." But the two women didn't know that at that very moment. Inside the mansion, something was beginning to change. Gabriel was inconsolable. He cried for hours, calling for Marina, refusing to eat, to play, to do anything. Veronica tried everything to make him stop. She threatened him with timeouts, promised rewards, tried indifference. Nothing worked. The boy was broken. That night, when he finally fell asleep from exhaustion, Gabriel had another nightmare. But this time, when he woke up screaming, there was no Marina to comfort him. There was only darkness, silence, and fear. Veronica hired a new nanny in less than 2 days. Her name was Constance, 50-year-old woman with a stern face and an impressive resume from wealthy households. She was known for her rigidity and for following orders without question. From the first day, it was clear that Gabriel's routine was only going to get worse. Constance had no patience for crying, no tolerance for mistakes, and not an ounce of affection to offer. She saw the job as exactly that, a job. And the job was to turn this boy into a miniature version of a disciplined adult. The schedules became even more rigid, the food portions even smaller, the time-outs longer, the hugs non-existent. Gabriel began to fade. Day by day he became quieter, more obedient, emptier. He stopped crying because he learned that crying was useless. He stopped asking for things because asking only brought consequences. He stopped smiling because there was nothing to smile about. He was becoming a ghost in his own home. Meanwhile, Marina tried to move on. She got a new job at a public daycare center near her house. The pay was much lower, but at least she was around children. And every child she hugged, every scraped knee she bandaged, every tear she wiped away, was for Gabriel. It was as if by caring for these children, she was somehow still caring for him. But the nights were hard. She dreamed of Gabriel crying, calling for her. She would wake up with an ache in her heart, wondering how he was, if he was eating properly, if someone hugged him when he had a nightmare, if he remembered her. A month passed, then 2. Marina tried calling the house several times, but Veronica had blocked her number. She tried sending a letter, but it was returned. There was no way to contact him. It was as if that period of her life had been completely erased. And then, on an ordinary Tuesday, everything changed. Richard Miller was at Miami International Airport, waiting for his flight back to New York. He had been away for 3 weeks, closing important deals for his company. He was tired, exhausted even, but eager to get home, to see Gabriel. He took out his phone and called Veronica. "Hey, honey, I'm boarding now. I'll be there early tomorrow morning." "That's good. Was it a good trip?" "It was great, closed all the deals. How's Gabriel?" "He's fine, well behaved. We changed nannies. The other one didn't work out." "We changed again?" Richard frowned. "That's the 4th nanny this year, Veronica. It's just hard to find competent professionals, but the new one is excellent, very strict. Gabriel is learning a lot of discipline." "Is he happy?" There was a short pause. "A 4-year-old doesn't need to be happy all the time, Richard. He needs to be properly educated." Something about the answer bothered Richard, but he was too tired to process it. "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Love you." He hung up and stared at the picture of Gabriel on his phone screen. His son was growing up and he was missing it. Always working, always traveling, always absent. But it was for the good of the family, wasn't it? To give Gabriel a good life, to make sure he never wanted for anything. Except Veronica's voice had sounded strange. And that question about happiness had been answered so pragmatically, so coldly. Richard spent the entire flight thinking, when was the last time he saw Gabriel truly happy? When was the last time he played with his son? When was the last time he had a real conversation with him that wasn't just asking if he was behaving? How long had it been since he had become just a provider, just someone who paid the bills but wasn't present? He didn't know it yet, but he was about to discover truths that would change everything. Truths that would make him question every decision he had made since marrying Veronica. Truths that would reveal the true suffering of the son he loved but couldn't protect because he simply wasn't there to see it. The flight landed at JFK at 6 in the morning. Richard took a cab straight home, too anxious to wait for the private driver. He wanted to get there quickly to see Gabriel before he started his day's activities. He had brought a gift, a remote-control car he'd seen in a shop at the airport. Maybe they could play with it in the garden together. When he arrived at the mansion, everything was quiet. It was still early. He went straight up to Gabriel's room, smiling as he imagined the boy's surprise at seeing him. He opened the door slowly, so as not to startle him. Gabriel was awake, sitting on his bed, looking out the window. When he heard the door, he turned his head. Richard expected to see his eyes light up, expected his son to run into his arms as he always did. But that's not what happened. Gabriel looked at him with an empty expression. He didn't smile. He didn't move. He just said in a low voice, "Hi, Daddy. Richard felt a strange pang in his chest. "Hey, champ, Daddy's back. Aren't you happy to see me?" "I am." The response was mechanical, emotionless. Richard entered the room and knelt in front of his son. "I brought you a present. It's a really cool car. Want to play?" "I can't. I have a schedule for activities. But I just got here. We can play for a little bit, just for today." "Mommy Veronica said we can't break the routine. That routine is important." Richard frowned. "But your dad just got back from a trip. I don't think she'll mind if we play for a bit." "Yes, she will. She always minds." Something was wrong. Very wrong. Richard looked more closely at his son. Gabriel was thinner. He had dark circles under his eyes that shouldn't be on a 4-year-old's face. His green eyes, which used to sparkle, now seemed dull. "Gabriel, are you okay?" "I'm fine." "Are you sure? You seem different." "I'm well behaved. I'm being a good boy." "But you've always been a good boy." "I wasn't. That's why the nannies left, because I wasn't good enough. But now I am. I don't cry anymore, I don't make messes, I don't bother anyone, I'm well behaved." Richard's heart sank. Who had put these ideas in his son's head? Which nanny left? "The last one. Marina." Marina. I don't remember that name. "She was the best," Gabriel said, and for the first time since Richard entered the room, there was emotion in his voice. "She was nice to me, she let me play, she told me stories, she gave me hugs when I had nightmares, but Mommy Veronica sent her away." "Why?" "Because she was nice to me. Mommy Veronica doesn't like it when people are nice to me." Richard felt a chill. That didn't make sense, or did it? He thought about all the conversations he'd had with Veronica about Gabriel, always about discipline, about behavior, about rules, never about love, about affection, about happiness. When was the last time Veronica had spoken about Gabriel with genuine warmth? "I'm going to talk to Mommy Veronica about this." Richard held his son's small hand. "And about Marina, too. If she was good to you, maybe we can bring her back." "It's no use. Mommy Veronica doesn't like her. And now there's Constance. She's very strict. She does everything Mommy Veronica says." Richard kissed his son's forehead. "Leave it with me, okay? Daddy will fix this." But as he left the room, Richard wasn't so confident. Something was very wrong in this house, and he had been too blind to see it, or too absent to notice. He went downstairs and found Veronica having coffee on the terrace. She was beautiful as always, reading the news on her tablet. "Good morning, honey. Have you seen Gabriel?" "I have." She didn't even look up from her tablet. "Veronica, he's acting strange. He's so quiet, so subdued. He didn't seem happy to see me." "He's fine, just more disciplined. That's what children need at this age. But he's a child, not a soldier. A child needs to play, to be happy." Finally, Veronica looked at him. "Richard, you travel all the time. You're gone for weeks. You're not here to see. The routine to deal with the daily challenges." "I am. And I can assure you that Gabriel is being raised in the best possible way." "He mentioned a nanny, Marina. He said she was good to him, and that you fired her." "She was unsuitable. She created emotional dependency, undermined my authority, filled his head with wrong ideas. I had to let her go." "And the other 3 before her?" Veronica tensed. "Is this an interrogation?" "It's concern. Our son goes through 4 nannies in less than a year. And you don't find that strange? The problem isn't with me, or Gabriel. It's with the nannies. It's hard to find competent professionals these days. But Constance is excellent, very experienced, very strict. Gabriel will learn a lot from her." "Strict how?" "Disciplined, punctual, firm, exactly what he needs." Richard was about to respond when Gabriel appeared at the terrace door, accompanied by a middle-aged woman with a severe expression. It was Constance. "Mr. Miller, good morning. Mrs. Miller said I should bring Gabriel for breakfast before his morning activities." "Good morning." Richard looked at his son. "Come sit here with me, champ." Gabriel looked at Constance as if asking for permission. The nanny nodded, and he sat in the chair next to his father, rigid, his hands in his lap. Breakfast arrived. Richard watched as they served Gabriel. The portion was small, far too small for a growing child. A piece of toast with jam, half a glass of milk, a sliced banana, nothing more. Is that all? It's the appropriate portion, Veronica answered. Children shouldn't overeat. But he's thin. He's growing. He needs more food. He eats enough for his needs. Excess leads to laziness and bad habits. Richard watched Gabriel eat slowly, mechanically. No joy, no conversation, just obligation. After breakfast, Constance stood up. Master Gabriel, it's time for educational activities. Gabriel stood up immediately, like a little soldier. Richard gently held his arm. Wait, don't you want to stay with Daddy a little longer? It's been so long since we've seen each other. I can't be late for my routine, Daddy, Gabriel said in that lifeless voice. I have to do my activities. And he left, followed by the nanny. Richard stared at the empty doorway, a tightness growing in his chest. Veronica, this isn't right. What isn't right? The way he's living. He's like a robot. It's like he has no life in him. He has the life he needs, structured, disciplined, appropriate. He's 4 years old. Exactly. It's the most important age for character formation. If we let him grow up spoiled, he'll become a weak adult. Spoiled? Veronica, affection isn't spoiling. Love isn't weakness. Veronica stood up, her eyes cold. Richard, you don't understand. You weren't here when Julia was alive. You didn't see how permissive she was, how she was raising Gabriel to be dependent, weak, incapable. If she hadn't left, she would have ruined our son. Left? Richard felt something strange in her words. Julia didn't leave. She had complications from Gabriel's birth and got very sick. The doctors said she needed specialized treatment and she chose to leave, Veronica interrupted. Chose to leave instead of fighting. Chose to abandon you and her son. That's not love, Richard. Love is staying. Love is doing what needs to be done, even when it's hard, like I do with Gabriel. Richard was silent. The story of Julia's death had always been hazy for him. She had serious complications after childbirth, was hospitalized for months, and then simply didn't make it. But there were always questions he hadn't asked, details he hadn't investigated because it was too painful, because trusting Veronica was easier. But now, looking at the woman he had married 2 years after losing Julia, Richard began to wonder what else he had missed, by always being absent, always working, always trusting blindly. I have to go. I have meetings today. Veronica picked up her purse. But think about what I said, Richard. Gabriel needs discipline, not coddling. And she left, leaving Richard alone on the terrace, staring at the untouched coffee in front of him, with more questions than answers. Richard didn't go to the office. For the first time in years, he cancelled all his meetings and decided to stay home. He needed to observe. He needed to understand what was happening to Gabriel. He went quietly up to the second floor and stood in the hallway, where he could see into his son's room. The door was ajar. He peeked in. Gabriel was sitting at a small table, doing handwriting exercises. Constance was sitting in a chair beside him, a stopwatch in her hand. Faster, Master Gabriel. The letter P needs to be perfect in 5 minutes, or we'll start over. Gabriel's small hand was trembling with effort. He was sweating. Richard could see the tension in his little shoulders, the way he bit his lower lip in concentration. 3 minutes, Constance announced coldly. Gabriel sped up his movements. The letter came out crooked. He stopped, looked at the paper, and Richard saw panic in his son's eyes. It's crooked. I have to do it again. Exactly. Perfection requires practice. Get another sheet. Gabriel took another sheet with shaking hands. He started again. Richard felt anger rising inside him. This wasn't education. It was torture. A 4-year-old doing repetitive exercises under a stopwatch until his hands hurt. But he didn't intervene, not yet. He needed to see more. He needed to understand the extent of what was happening. He spent the entire day observing. He saw Gabriel do 3 straight hours of educational activities without a break. He saw lunchtime, where the boy ate a minuscule portion while Constance corrected his posture at the table. He saw the so-called playtime, which consisted of sitting quietly and assembling educational puzzles in absolute silence. There was no laughter, There were no conversations. There was no childhood. In the middle of the afternoon, Gabriel dropped a glass of water. It was an accident, obviously. The glass slipped from his small hand, but the reaction was disproportionate. Constance stood up abruptly. Again, how many times do I have to teach you to hold things properly? It was an accident. Gabriel's voice was a terrified whisper. An accident because you don't pay attention. To the time-out chair. 1 hour. Gabriel didn't argue. He didn't cry. He just stood up, went to the chair in the corner of the room and sat down, hands in his lap, head bowed, as if it were completely normal. Richard couldn't take it anymore. He walked into the room. "What's going on here?" Constance turned, surprised. "Mr. Miller, Master Gabriel spilled water and is facing the consequences." "Consequences for spilling water? He's 4 years old." Mrs. Miller was clear in her instructions. Any mistake must have a consequence so that he learns. "Gabriel, get up." Richard went to his son and lifted him from the chair. "Sir, with all due respect, but Mrs. Miller, I'm his father, and I say that a timeout for spilling water is an overreaction." Constance tensed. "I'll have to call Mrs. Miller." "Go ahead." The nanny left the room, phone already in hand. Richard knelt in front of Gabriel, who was trembling. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I know I deserved the punishment. I'll go sit down again." "No, Gabriel. You won't. And you didn't deserve any punishment. It was an accident. But I spilled the water. So what? Everyone spills things sometimes. That doesn't mean you need to be punished." Gabriel's eyes filled with tears. "But Mommy Veronica said—" "Mommy Veronica is wrong," Richard said, and his own words felt like a punch to the gut. His wife was wrong. And he had been. Too blind, too absent to see. "Why are you so scared, son? What happens when you make a mistake?" "I go to timeout, and if I make too many mistakes, I don't get to eat, and if I cry, I get locked in my room, and if I complain, the punishment gets longer." Gabriel spoke as if reciting memorized rules. Richard felt sick. My God. How long had this been going on? How long had his son been subjected to this cruelty disguised as education? "Who taught you these rules?" "Mommy Veronica, always, for as long as I can remember. And she says it's because she loves me, that she wants me to be strong, that she wants me to be perfect." "Gabriel, look at me." Richard held the small face in his hands. "You don't have to be perfect. You have to be a kid. You need to play, make mistakes, learn, laugh, cry. You need to be you. But I don't know how to be. I only know how to be well-behaved." And Richard's heart broke. Completely. At that moment, Veronica stormed into the room like a hurricane. "Richard, what do you think you're doing?" Constance called me, saying, "You're interfering with the educational method." Richard stood up, putting Gabriel behind him. "What method, Veronica? Punishing a child for spilling water? Depriving him of food? Locking him in the dark? This isn't education, it's abuse. How dare you accuse me? Everything I do is for Gabriel's own good." "For his good? Look at him. Do you see him? He's terrified. He's thin, pale, lifeless. Where is the happy little boy I used to have? That boy was spoiled, weak. I've turned him into someone disciplined, strong. You've turned him into someone who's afraid. Afraid of being a child. Afraid of making mistakes. Afraid of you." Veronica turned pale. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're not here. You don't see." "Exactly. I'm not here, and that needs to change. From now on, I will be present. I will see everything that happens to my son. And these absurd rules, they're over. You can't just—" "Yes, I can. I'm his father. And I should have done this a long time ago. Constance is fired. You will find a nanny who knows what affection is, what childhood is. Or better yet, I'll find one myself." Veronica was shaking with rage. "If you do this, Richard, you'll regret it." "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning. You don't know everything. You don't understand." "Then explain it to me. Make me understand why you treat my son as if he's a problem to be solved instead of a child to be loved." Veronica looked at Gabriel, then at Richard. Her eyes were different. There was something there, something dark, that Richard had never seen before. "You will understand everything. Soon. But when you do, you'll realize I was right. I always was. And she left, slamming the door. Richard stood there, his heart racing, hugging Gabriel, who was crying silently in his arms, and he knew with absolute certainty that he had only discovered the tip of the iceberg. There was so much more beneath the surface. Secrets Veronica kept, truths about Julia that had never been fully revealed, and a web of lies that held that house together. But one thing was certain now. He wasn't going to run away anymore. He wasn't going to travel and leave Gabriel alone. He was going to stay. He was going to fight. He was going to uncover the whole truth no matter how much it hurt. And he was going to save his son, by any means necessary. Richard didn't sleep that night. He sat in the armchair in Gabriel's room, watching his son sleep. The boy had nightmares, tossed and turned, and murmured heartbreaking things. He called for the mother who was no longer there. He called for Marina, and every time he woke up startled, Richard was there to hold his hand, to tell him everything was okay, that Daddy was here now. The next day, Richard made a decision. He talked at length with Gabriel about Marina, what she was like, what she did, how he felt when he was with her. And every word the boy said confirmed what Richard already knew deep down. Marina hadn't just been a nanny. She had been the only person who had truly loved Gabriel since Julia was gone. I need to find her, son. Do you remember her full name? Marina, just Marina. But she lives far away. She took the bus, and she has little siblings, and her mom works in a factory. Gabriel tried to remember all the details Marina had shared. Richard wrote it all down. He had the records. He had from the employment agency. He had the name. He had enough information to find her. And he would find her, because if there was anyone Gabriel needed back in his life, it was her. But first, he needed proof. He needed something concrete that showed exactly what was happening in that house. Because he knew Veronica was smart. He knew she had lawyers, influence, power. And in a legal battle, he would need more than just his word. So Richard hired a discreet security company. He had hidden cameras installed throughout the house. In the living room, the kitchen, the hallways, and especially in Gabriel's room. Cameras Veronica didn't know existed. Cameras that would record every second, every interaction, every moment of cruelty disguised as discipline. I have to travel for a few days. There are important meetings I can't cancel, he lied to Veronica, watching her reaction. Her eyes lit up. Good. Gabriel was becoming too dependent on you. He needs to get back to his normal routine. Normal. The word tasted like poison in Richard's mouth. I'll miss him. He'll be fine. Constance knows how to take care of him properly. Richard said goodbye to Gabriel with a long hug. He whispered in the boy's ear that it was just for a few days, that he'd be back soon, that he should be strong. And then he left, but he didn't go on any trip. He went to a hotel near the house, where he could watch the camera feeds in real time on his laptop. What he saw over the next few days destroyed him. He saw Veronica deny Gabriel water because he had asked outside of the scheduled time. He saw Constance force the boy to do writing exercises until his hand bled. He saw Gabriel being humiliated for crying when he fell and hurt himself. He saw the boy locked in his dark room in the middle of the night for having a nightmare. He saw hours and hours of time out for minuscule mistakes. He saw food deprivation used as punishment. He saw a 4-year-old boy being treated with less dignity than a prisoner. But the worst moment was when, one morning, Gabriel spilled milk at breakfast. Veronica took a rope and tied the boy's hands to the time-out chair, saying he needed to learn to sit still without moving. Gabriel cried, begged, promised to be good. But he stayed there for 3 hours, his hands tied, unable to go to the bathroom, unable to drink water, alone and terrified. Richard recorded everything, every second of abuse, every moment of cruelty, and when he had enough material, he went home. It was the middle of the night when he arrived. The house was silent. He went straight up to Gabriel's room, and as he expected, the door was locked from the outside. He heard soft crying from within. The boy had had another nightmare. Richard opened the door with his spare key. Gabriel was curled up, on the bed, hugging his teddy bear, crying in the dark. "Daddy!" His voice was so small, so scared. "It's me, son. Daddy's back." Gabriel threw himself into his arms, sobbing. "I had a nightmare and I called but nobody came and the door was locked and I was scared. I know, I saw everything, and this is going to end now." Richard held his son tightly. "This ends tonight." He went downstairs carrying Gabriel in his arms and turned on all the lights in the living room. He woke Veronica up on purpose, making noise. She appeared in her. She, robe irritated. "Richard, what time is it? Why did you wake Gabriel?" "Sit down, you need to see something." He turned on the large TV in the living room and connected his laptop. He started playing the videos, one by one. Every scene of abuse, every moment of cruelty, every recorded second. Veronica turned pale. "You filmed me? How dare you?" "I filmed my house, my son, and I found out who you really are." The images kept playing. Gabriel tied to the chair, Gabriel crying, locked in his room. Gabriel being deprived of food, Gabriel being humiliated. "It's not what it looks like," Veronica tried to defend herself. "It's discipline, it's education. This is torture." Richard paused on a particularly devastating frame of Gabriel tied up, crying. "This is child abuse, and I have hours of footage to prove it." "You can't do anything with this. I'm your wife." "You were. As of today, you're nothing to me anymore. You're getting out of this house now, and I'm filing for divorce tomorrow morning, with these recordings as evidence." Veronica stood up, shaking with rage. "You'll regret this, Richard. You'll find out things about your precious Julia that you don't. No, you'll find out that I saved this boy from her." "What are you talking about?" "Julia wasn't the saint you think she was. She was sick. She had severe depression. She wanted to get rid of Gabriel. That's why I convinced her to go to that clinic. And when she finally accepted she wasn't fit to be a mother, she just gave up. She left and never came back." Richard felt the world spin. "What?" "She's alive, Richard. Julia is alive. She's been in a psychiatric clinic for 4 years, and I was the only one who had the courage to do what needed to be done, to get Gabriel away from the influence of a crazy mother." The room spun. Julia was alive. All this time his wife was alive, and he didn't know. Gabriel clung tighter to his father's shirt, frightened by the revelation. "Where?" Richard managed to ask. "In a private clinic, a very expensive one, that you pay for every month without knowing. It's listed on the statements as medical expenses." Veronica smiled cruelly. "She didn't want to see you anymore. She signed papers giving up custody. She chose madness over her family." Richard felt nauseous. All lies. Years of lies. "You deceived me. You made me believe she was dead. Technically, I said she was gone, that she didn't make it. I didn't lie. I just let you interpret it as you wished. And Gabriel, you treated him this way because you hated Julia. I treated him this way because he needed to be strong. He needed not to be weak like his mother. But you ruin everything with your coddling." Veronica spat the words. "You don't understand anything about raising a child." "Get out of my house," Richard said in a low but firm voice. "Now." "This is my house too." "Not anymore. Leave or I'll call the police and show them these recordings. I'm sure they'll have a lot of questions about child abuse." Veronica looked at Richard, then at Gabriel huddled in his father's arms. Her eyes were as cold as ever, but there was something different there. Defeat. "You'll regret this, Richard. All of you will." And she left, going upstairs to get her things. In less than an hour, she was out of the house, taking only a few suitcases. Richard changed all the locks that same night. When the sun rose, Gabriel was still awake, processing everything he had heard. "Daddy, is my mummy alive?" "It seems so, son." "Why isn't she here?" Richard didn't know how to answer, because the situation was too complex for a child to understand, because Julia was probably truly sick, and Veronica, in her cruelty, had taken advantage of it. "I'm going to find out, okay? I'm going to find out the whole truth. But right now, you and I need to take care of each other. We need to heal what's been broken." "And Marina?" Gabriel asked with hope in his eyes. "Are you going to find her?" "I am. I promise I will." And he kept his promise. Richard hired a private investigator who, in 2 days, found Marina. She was living in a simple house in the Bronx, working at a public daycare and trying every day to forget the boy she had been forced to abandon. When the investigator showed up at her door, Marina thought it was some kind of trouble, but he just handed her an envelope with an address and a time, saying someone really wanted to see her. Marina didn't know if she should. So. She was afraid it was a trap set by Veronica, but curiosity and hope won out. On Saturday morning, she took 2 buses to the address. It was a beautiful park in the city, and there, sitting on a bench, was Richard, and next to him, holding his hand, was Gabriel. Marina's heart stopped. The boy saw her first. His eyes widened, and then he started running. Running like he'd never been allowed to before. Running with all the strength in his little legs, screaming her name. "Marina! Marina!" She knelt with her arms open, and Gabriel threw himself into them, hugging her so tightly he almost knocked her over. They both cried. They cried with relief, with joy, with reunion. Marina covered his face with kisses as he repeated how much he had missed her, that he had thought of her every day, that he had prayed for her to come back. Richard approached, tears in his eyes as well. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I didn't know. I wasn't there to see it. But now I've seen everything. I have the recordings. I know what Veronica did to him. And I know that you were the only one who truly loved my son." Marina looked at him, at the man who had finally woken up to the truth. "Is he okay? How is he?" "Getting better. But he still has nightmares. He's still scared. He still needs a lot of love to heal." Richard knelt beside them. "That's why I looked for you, because Gabriel needs you. And I'm asking you, please, come back. Come back and take care of him. No absurd rules, no restrictions, nothing. Just love him like you did before. I'll pay you whatever you want, offer whatever you need. Just please don't leave him again." Marina looked at Gabriel, who was staring at her with those green eyes full of hope. How could she say no? "I'll come back. But not for the money. I'll come back because I love this boy. Because I thought about him every day. Because he deserves to have someone who truly loves him." And so Marina returned. Not as an employee, but as part of the family. Richard gave her a room in the house, a generous salary, and most importantly, complete freedom to care for Gabriel in the way she saw fit. The first few days were difficult. Gabriel had anxiety attacks. He woke up crying. He was afraid Marina would leave again. He tested the limits constantly, expecting punishments that never came. He would spill water on purpose to see if he would be punished. He would make small mistakes, expecting severe consequences. But Marina was there, always. Every time he made a mistake, she just cleaned it up with him and said it was okay. Every time he cried, she hugged him and let him cry as much as he needed. Every time he had a nightmare, she came into his room and sat by his bed until he fell asleep again. Every time he asked if she was going to leave, she promised she wouldn't, not ever again. The first week was especially intense. Gabriel barely left Marina's side. He followed her around the house like a shadow, afraid that if he lost sight of her for a second, she would disappear. At bedtime, he begged her to stay in his room. Marina slept several nights in an armchair next to his bed, just so he would know he wasn't alone. Richard watched it all with an aching heart. He saw how much his son had suffered, how much he had been damaged, but he also saw the magic Marina was working. Each day, Gabriel took a small step toward healing. In the second week, something important happened. Gabriel was playing in the garden with Marina when he tripped and fell, scraping his knee. He immediately froze, his eyes wide with fear. Marina saw his reaction and understood. He was expecting to be punished for getting hurt, for being clumsy. She knelt beside him, cleaning the scrape gently. "That hurt, didn't it? But it's okay. Accidents happen. We'll clean it up. Put a cool Band-Aid on it and you'll be all better. You were so brave." Gabriel looked at her with tears in his eyes. "You're not mad?" "Mad? Why would I be mad at you?" because I fell, because I got hurt, because I wasn't careful. Sweetie, everyone falls. Everyone gets hurt sometimes. That's not a reason to be mad. It's a reason to take care of someone, to give them a hug, to help them feel better. And she hugged him. Gabriel cried, but it wasn't a cry of physical pain. It was a cry of relief. Relief at discovering that real love didn't come with conditions, didn't come with punishments, didn't come with fear. Richard hired a psychologist specializing in childhood trauma. Dr. Evans began seeing Gabriel 3 times a week. It was a slow, sometimes painful process, but necessary. In his sessions, Gabriel learned to name his emotions, to understand that what had happened to him wasn't normal, wasn't his fault. Dr. Evans also guided Richard and Marina on how to handle the triggers, the regressions, the difficult moments. She explained that Gabriel needed to relearn everything about relationships, about love, about safety, and that it would take time. A month after Marina's return, the first major breakthrough occurred. Gabriel was in the living room playing when Marina announced she needed to go to the grocery store. "You'll come back?" Gabriel asked immediately, panic rising in his eyes. "Yes, I will. I'll be gone an hour at most." "Promise?" "I promise. And you know how you'll know I keep my promises? I'm going to leave my phone here with you. If I'm gone for more than an hour, you can call me." "Really? Really?" Marina left, leaving her phone behind. Gabriel stared at the device as if it were a treasure. Richard, who was working from his home office, came to check on his son. "She's coming back, right, Daddy?" "Yes, she is. And you know why I'm sure? Because Marina really loves you. And people who really love you don't abandon you. Even when I do something wrong? Gabriel, you almost never do anything wrong. But even if you did, even if you broke everything in this house, spilled everything, screamed, cried, made the biggest mess in the world, Marina would still love you. Because real love doesn't depend on you being perfect, it just depends on you being you. 55 minutes later, Marina returned with the groceries. Gabriel was sitting in the living room, phone in hand, counting the minutes. When he saw her walk in, his eyes filled with tears of relief. "You came back. I will always come back. Always." And she hugged him. It was in that moment that something shifted inside Gabriel. He began to believe. He began to trust. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months. Gabriel slowly rediscovered what it was like to be a child. He learned he could laugh loudly without being reprimanded. He learned he could run without being punished. He learned he could ask questions without being called inconvenient. He learned he could have preferences, tastes, opinions. Marina enrolled him in a new school where no one knew his story. In the first few days, Gabriel was tense, expecting the teachers to be as strict as Veronica. But he found caring teachers who praised instead of criticized, who encouraged instead of punished. He made his first friend, a boy named Lucas who lived nearby. When Lucas invited him over to play, Gabriel looked at Marina with uncertainty. "Can I go?" "Of course you can. Go have fun. What if I do something wrong there? Then we'll deal with it when it happens, but everything will be fine, you'll see." Gabriel went and returned 3 hours later with the biggest smile Marina had ever seen. He had played with cars, eaten popcorn, watched cartoons. Normal things that were extraordinary to him because he had never been allowed to do them. In the meantime, the relationship between Richard and Marina deepened. They spent their evenings talking after Gabriel was asleep, sharing stories, fears, dreams. Richard told her about his marriage to Julia, how good it had been at the beginning, about her postpartum depression, about how Veronica had appeared offering help and slowly taken control. "I was a coward," Richard confessed one of those nights. "I accepted the easiest version of the story. It was more comfortable to believe Julia had given up than to investigate, to fight. I failed her and I failed Gabriel." "You didn't know. Veronica manipulated everything." "But I should have noticed. I should have been present. I should have seen my son's suffering." Marina held his hand. "You saw it when you were ready to see it. And since then, you've done everything right. That's what matters. Thank you. For everything. For loving my son when no one else did. for coming back when I asked, for giving me a chance to be a real father. And Marina realized she was falling in love too. With this man who had woken up to his mistakes and was fighting to fix them, with this dedicated father who now read stories, played in the garden, was present at every meal. With this imperfect but genuinely good human being she saw every day. Things began to change between them. Their gazes lingered longer. Accidental touches became frequent. Conversations deepened. And Gabriel, with a child's intuition, noticed everything. And slowly, with a lot of love and patience, the boy began to blossom. He started smiling again. He started playing again. He learned to run in the garden without fear. He learned to ask for food when he was hungry. He learned to say when he was scared or sad. He learned to be a child again. Richard changed too. He drastically reduced his travel. He started working from home more. He was present for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He played with Gabriel in the garden. He read stories before bed. He participated in the therapy sessions. He learned to be a real father. And in the midst of all this, something unexpected happened. Richard began to see Marina differently. He saw the way she loved Gabriel unconditionally. He saw her infinite patience, her genuine affection, her absolute dedication. He saw how she transformed the house with her presence, how she brought joy to places that were once cold. Marina also felt something changing. She saw Richard genuinely striving to be a better father. She saw his sincere regret, the deep love he had for Gabriel. She saw a good man who had been deceived and manipulated, but who was fighting to make everything right. 6 months after their reunion, on a Sunday afternoon, Gabriel was playing in the garden when he turned to the two adults, watching him with smiles. "Are you two going to get married?" They both blushed. Marina laughed nervously. Richard cleared his throat. "Why do you ask that, champ?" "Because I want you to. I want Marina to be my real mom. And you like her, Daddy. I can tell." "Out of the mouths of babes, as they say." Richard looked at Marina. "What if I told you your son is right, that I've fallen in love with you?" Marina's heart raced. "Richard, I know it sounds crazy. I know you only came here for him. But these past few months, watching you take care of him, seeing who you really are, I fell in love. With the way you love. With the person you are. And I know I don't deserve it, after everything that's happened. But I love you, Marina. And I want to ask you not just to stay as Gabriel's nanny, but to be part of our lives. Forever." Marina had tears in her eyes. "I've fallen in love with you too. With both of you. This family you've given me, this love, this home. I want this. I want to be a part of it." Richard knelt, taking her hand. "Then marry me. Not for convenience, not out of obligation, but because I love you and I want to build a life with you. I want you to be Gabriel's mother officially. I want to have more children with you. I want to grow old with you." Marina looked at Gabriel, who was jumping for joy. She looked at Richard, at the man she loved, and she said yes. They were married 3 months later, in a simple ceremony in the backyard. Gabriel was the ring-bearer, wearing a tiny suit with the biggest smile in the world. When the justice of the peace asked if anyone objected to the union, Gabriel shouted that he was in favor, making everyone laugh. At the reception, Gabriel gave an impromptu speech. He said that Marina was the mom he had always wanted, that she had been sent by his mommy in heaven to take care of him, and that now he had a real family. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Life went on, lighter, happier. Gabriel continued therapy, but the nightmares faded. He became a normal kid again, full of energy, curious, joyful. He made friends at school. He learned to ride a bike. He had birthday parties filled with laughter and mess. And a year after the wedding, Marina discovered she was pregnant. Gabriel was ecstatic at the news that he would be a big brother. He promised to care for and protect the baby like no one had cared for him. He promised his brother or sister would never be scared, never go hungry, never be punished unfairly. When the baby was born, a beautiful girl they named Julia in honor of the biological mother Gabriel never truly knew. The boy was the first to hold her. He looked at that tiny face, and whispered promises of protection and love. Richard managed to locate the real Julia at the psychiatric clinic. She had indeed had a severe postpartum episode and, manipulated by Veronica, had signed papers relinquishing custody while she was medicated and confused. Richard filed a lawsuit to reverse it and won. Julia began proper treatment and slowly improved. When she was finally well enough, Richard brought Gabriel to meet her. It was an emotional moment. Julia cried, seeing the son she had lost, asking for forgiveness for not being strong enough. Gabriel, who had learned about forgiveness and love from Marina, hugged her and said he loved her. Julia didn't move back in with them, but she became a part of Gabriel's life. She visited regularly, attended important events, and slowly built a relationship with her son. And to everyone's surprise, she and Marina became friends. Marina didn't see Julia as a threat, but as one more person who loved Gabriel. And Julia was grateful to Marina for saving her son when she couldn't. The years passed. Gabriel grew up strong, confident, and above all, kind. The pain he had lived through transformed into empathy. He became the kid who defended the weaker ones at school, who comforted sad friends, who shared his lunch with those who had none, who never ever used force or fear to get what he wanted. When he was 10, for a school essay on what he wanted to be when he grew up, Gabriel wrote that he wanted to save sad children. He wanted to be like Marina had been for him. He wanted to find children who were suffering and bring them to families full of love, just like what had happened to him. The teacher cried reading that essay. She showed it to Richard and Marina, who cried too. This boy, who had started his life in so much pain, had become a beacon of hope and kindness. One evening, as a teenager, Gabriel was sitting in the garden with Marina, looking at the stars. He was almost as tall as her, now, but he still liked to rest his head on his mother's shoulder. You know, sometimes I still remember that time, with Veronica. Marina tensed. You do? Yeah. But you know what it feels like a bad dream that's over, like it happened to someone else. Because the Gabriel of today is so different from the Gabriel back then, they barely seem like the same person. And are you okay with those memories? I am. Because they taught me how important love is, how having a real family is a gift, and they taught me that I want to spend the rest of my life making sure no child suffers what I suffered. Marina hugged the son she chose to love. You're an incredible boy, Gabriel, an incredible man, and I am so proud of you. Thank you for not leaving me behind, for fighting to come back, for teaching me what real love is. I loved you from the very first day, my love, and I'll love you until the very last. And so, a story that began with so much suffering, with a child trapped in a cold house, mistreated by the one who should have protected him, transformed into a story of love, healing, and redemption. It became a family born not of blood, but of choice, of the commitment to love unconditionally, to protect fiercely, and to always be present. Gabriel grew up knowing he had 3 mothers: Julia, who gave birth to him but couldn't raise him; Veronica, whom he preferred to forget; and Marina, who chose to love him when no one else did. And he knew, deep in his heart, which one truly mattered, which one had been a real mother. The story of the Miller-Davis family was proof that love always finds a way, that the truth always comes to light, that it's never too late to start over, and that a true family is the one we build with our hearts, not with documents or last names. Years later, when Gabriel graduated with a degree in psychology, specializing in childhood trauma, he dedicated his thesis to survivors of abuse. In the dedication, he wrote simply, "For Marina, who taught me that love heals all, and for all the children still waiting for someone like her." End of story. Dear listeners, we hope the story of Marina, Richard, and Gabriel has deeply touched your hearts. If you were moved by this journey of pain transformed into love, of suffering turned to hope, please leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and tell us in the comments which moment marked you the most. Was it the reunion in the park? Richard's courage in discovering the truth? Marina's tireless dedication? Every day we bring intense stories like this one, revealing the deepest side of the human soul and reminding us that love always wins. We'll see you in the next episode with another story that will stir your emotions.